I actually agree with the previous speaker that Jan LeCun is definitely somebody you should follow on LinkedIn. He's great, he has fantastic stories, and he's a real visionary when it comes to AI. Who of you know how long IBM has been in AI already? I mean, Jan already mentioned IBM using AI for various use cases, and one of them is actually watching chef. Watching chefs used to cook very special meals. Some of them were lovely, some of them were quite disgusting, I must admit. But AI can be used for many different use cases. What we predominantly do today is we use AI for business. And it brings me back to a story. I mean, I actually, does it work? Yeah, there we go. So I grew up in this area. I come from a town 20 kilometers from Eindhoven. I used to study in Eindhoven. And my mother used to bake apple pies. Every month she baked an apple pie, and we knew where the apples came from because they came up from an orchard nearby. The flour came from a windmill quite nearby. So we knew what the ingredients were used to do so. And once a month, you know, you can bake an apple pie, you can go to the grocery store, you can go to the orchard to pick some apples. But once you have like a party, you need to start scaling out. And I have two sisters, and you know, we were tasked with three of us just peeling 2 apples to make the next apple pie or to make 2 or 3 apple pies. But again, we had governance over the entire process because we knew everything from the very beginning to the very implementation when it ends up in your stomach. And this is like what I want to use the storyline for to explain what AI governance is about. And there's actually prizes to win, so pay attention, please, because we're going to do like a very small quiz at the end, and you can win some prizes. So if AI is used in the business, we talk about CRM systems, we use ERP systems, financial systems, and IBM has been using AI all along. In 2011, we had a very nice quiz show, Jeopardy, that you may remember. Watson won Jeopardy at that time, like it won a chess game against Kasparov before. But if you look at what companies are tasked with now, it is basically the two, not sure if you recognize them, it's the fear of missing out versus the fear of messing up. When you, a lot of companies are, you know, busy with how can I get implementation of AI, how I can make my processes faster, how can I enlighten or delight my personnel, how can I make their life a lot easier. But at the same time, as soon as you start exposing AI to your end clients, you have a high chance or you have a high fear of messing up. And we've seen that all along, or we've seen that in a couple of cases already. And the second thing is, and as soon as you have some kind of governance process, it usually comes with an obligation. I've been in data governance for more than 20 years. Banks, telcos, everybody needs to do data governance. What do? The least possible, because it's an obligation. I need to report to my regulator, and therefore I will do only what is absolutely necessary. But I actually consider governance as an opportunity as well. Because as soon as you start documenting your data, as soon as you start documenting your use cases, you can become much more scalable, you can become much more agile in developing new use cases or having new ideas. So think of it when you think about governance, think of it as opportunity instead of obligation. So what does it take to have trustworthy AI? There's 3 elements, always. Despite all the models that we have today, there are really powerful models like GPT, like Llama, everything starts with the data. Can I trust the data that has been used to train the model? So not only can I trust the data, but can I use the data that has been used to train the model? Every model, if you poke it long enough, it will spill whatever was put in the model. And that might be personal information, it might be IP information, there may be copyrighted information like we've seen. So in order to understand what has gone in the model, and especially for enterprises, it is really important that they understand what data the model has been trained with. And secondly, it comes with trust in the models. So which model is fit for purpose? Which model should I be using for my use case? So if I have a very simple RAG use case where I do enterprise search, what is the model that's going to do my summarization? What is the model that's going to do my tokenization? Those are the things that are important to understand. And finally, to scale out, you have to understand the process. The process that was used to feed the model with information, to maybe fine-tune it, to then deploy it in a production environment, and then to start monitoring that. And the entire process is important. What we identify typically is 3 key stakeholders. First of all is the business. It's the business who have a problem. So I've done data science, was involved in data science projects for 7 or 8 years ago. And a lot of it was hyped. Like, we see a little bit of the hype now. I would say we see massive hype now. And everybody wants to get involved. Everybody has use cases. Everybody has POCs. And a lot of those POCs went into POC graveyard because they could never be implemented in a real situation. That doesn't say that they aren't useful. I think they're extremely useful. They're really good learning assets to prepare for real AI use cases. But when you have AI use cases, you need to start with the business. There's a problem that they need to solve, or there's an opportunity that they have. And then you go into AI development. And AI development, 80% of it is collecting data. It's boring. It is boring stuff. But if you have done your data governance, you know where to find the data, you know the quality of the data, you know where it came from, etc. And then finally, if you have developed your AI use case for your business application, you go into operationalization. And this is a circle, and there's a reason why it's a circle. So let's start with the business, with the idea. So in the idea, you talk about the use case. You typically get together as a business unit to talk about your use cases. I want to make my interaction with my customers smarter. I want to make my HR processes smarter. And you discuss what are the use cases that are applicable to my business unit. Then you go into an approval process. And that approval process is important because the AI engineer who developed or who chose the AI model, who implements the AI model, or the developer that eventually implements this into a business application is not the person who is accountable. It is not the person that will get a slap on the wrist if they make a mistake. It is the business user or the business department in the end that is accountable for it. So when they do this approval process, they have to validate this against enterprise principles, against the strategy. Are there any regulations? Is there any risk for the reputation? Those are the things that come into play. And then when you hand it over to the AI engineering department, they will talk about what is the foundation model that we're going to use. Is there a foundation model to begin with? What is the cost? Is there any license involved with that? So those are all valid considerations before you start doing the real work, the development of AI. And when you do the development of AI, you need data. Like I said, 80% of all the work that you have to do in order to develop your AI, machine learning models or AI models, is about collecting the right data that you use for training machine learning models, fine-tuning foundation models. You need to collect documents. You may need to build vector stores if you want to do enterprise search for RAG use case. You may have some prompts that you want to prepare for your end users or for your applications to start using, and you document all that. The documentation of that is important. Why is that important? At some point, a mistake is going to be made. That's inevitable. Not a problem. As long as the mistake is small, you need to start monitoring that, but you also need to be able to trace back, and that's why it's important that to collect that data. Evaluating the model is again about collecting the data as well. You do that already through the development of your AI application and your AI models. And then you go into the next stage, is you start to think about how do I deploy this into my application? Is this a simple REST API? Can I really integrate it with my application? Are there other ways to use this AI so you can start to combine this with application data? And then once an AI model goes into production, you start monitoring it. And why do you monitor it? If I have a client-facing AI application, people will start sending messages to see if they can extract some information. It's, natural behavior or human behavior. The data may drift over time, and I need to monitor that as well. Is my AI model still fit for purpose, or is it slowly starting to drift, or is the outcome starting to drift? And at some point you may decide, well, this AI model is no longer, I shouldn't be using it for external anymore, I shouldn't be using it for internal anymore, and you go into the cycle again. Will I continue to use this AI model? Will I choose a different AI model? Or will I just retire it because it is no longer meeting my use case or meeting my requirements? So what you saw is the entire AI lifecycle. What we do in IBM is we focus on this entire AI lifecycle. And rather than calling it Watson, we call it Watson X now. So Watson was the founder of IBM, where we won the Jeopardy contests in 2011. But now we call it Watson X, where we handle all of the elements when it comes to model deployment, model monitoring, but also the data that is associated with that. And we actually bring the business together with the technology, because monitoring models is a very technical task. If I drive a car, I don't want to measure the pistons, because I have no knowledge of understanding how the pistons work. I want to look at the dashboard to see if there's a red light coming up saying there's a problem. So those are the terms that you need to talk to your business users. Your business users think in terms of risk. AI engineers think in terms of KPIs like Rouge score and whatever you have. So those are the things that you need to connect. And we're doing that as IBM. So let's focus on a couple of things. First of all, trust and data. This is 80% of the work. Have you already started to catalog your data that you have in your company? Not only structured data, but also your documents. Do you know where it came from? The provenance, the lineage. Do you know what the quality is? Do you have curation processes? Those are the things that you need to keep in mind whenever you start to work with your data in the context of models. And we tend to think of this as in terms of business meaning. So an end user who works with a structured data set doesn't know what column ABC123 means. They want to know that this is a customer number or this is the customer address. Those are the things that you have to think of in terms of business meaning and also how to curate it. The second thing is you want to involve your business users in accessing the data, because the IT and the AI engineers, they will have a hard time to understand what the business means by this data set. You have SMEs in your business who understand the data. The collaborative aspect of building your AI models, training your AI models, tuning your AI models is something that you have to do together with the business. Involve them because they have the expertise. They know what the outcome should look like. Secondly, trust in models. All of you have probably ordered from Bol, from Coolblue, from Amazon. You always get those recommendations, right? So those are traditional machine learning models. There are standard machine learning models that are used to identify whether I will get an insurance premium or not, whether my claim that I entered will be flagged as fraud or not. So that basically are AI risks that have been there all along, because you need to understand how the model works, explainability. You have to understand what a prediction accuracy is. That has been all along. If you look at foundation models, we talk about hallucination. So basically that is just the model misbehaves. And it doesn't always mean that it starts to curse or starts to spit out any hate or profanity. It is just that it may not produce the desired result. You need to have factuality included. So whenever we use AI models in our applications, and also that's what we recommend to our customers, can you somehow trace back that decision to some kind of document? So combining that is really important. You have to include this in the governance process, because when you use a certain model, if it starts to, or if it produces incorrect output, you need to be able to think of it, I need to replace this with a different model, or I need to start thinking about not using it anymore. And then finally, having a process in place that talks about how to collect the data, how to curate the data, how to tune your models, how to build up your vector stores. That is really important. There are many different people involved in that entire AI process. Having a proper handover between your AI and your operations, we call it MLOps or AI ops, is really important here as well. AI engineers are typically not that interested in deploying models. They are interested in making the outcome as accurate as possible. to get the optimum value. How, in the end, your applications are going to use that model is usually of less interest to the AI engineers. So having this process in place is really important, and we've been doing this for several years already. Then finally, I want to highlight two things. All along since Watson, we have started to build foundation models. We didn't call them foundation models at that time or large language models at that time, but we have looked at how can we have used foundation models in many of our applications to optimize applications. So many of the applications that we sell as IBM have AI infused. For all of those models, we have a very rigorous process of how we go from raw data, we call that the pile, or everybody calls that the pile, into the blue pile, which means that copyright information has been removed, it has been deduplicated, hate and profanity has been removed, and you see that a lot of that curation process actually reduces the data set. So the models become a lot smaller. They also become a little less capable. Let's admit that as well. If you compare Granite, which is one of the flagship models that we have, compare that against Llama 3, it stands no chance. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, and this is really where we are working on with some of our customers. It's IBM Research who's working with the customers together with IBM Development. And that is called the Instruct Lab, which is an open source project that you can get started with now. In the first week after announcing Llama 3, there were 6,000 forks on Hugging Face. Everyone has their own dialect, everyone has their own flavor of Llama 3. And all is published on Hugging Face. Which model do you then choose? We are choosing a slightly different approach. We have tried to compare, or we have compared how people deal or how organizations deal with open source applications. And we are bringing that into the model development as well. And that is the lab method. It stands for alignment. And the alignment method allows you to produce very small but very accurate data sets with skills and with knowledge. Small data sets, because the hard work in tuning models is usually to build a very large data set that can be used to tune your model. You build a small data set. That smaller data set is then used to generate synthetic data. Using that synthetic data generation, you can create a larger data set that is still very accurate. And you can therefore tune your model to respond to certain use cases based on a taxonomy. I included the link, so if you are interested, please read it, please get involved as well. So we were going to, I promised you there would be a prize at the end, and the prize is actually 2 apple pies. So there's going to be a quiz. I hope somebody will start a quiz up there. There we go. So if you have a mobile device, everybody has it, of course. If you don't like apple pie, don't open your mobile. So just enter the GM Eindhoven. Let's give people a couple of seconds to get started. Raise your hand if you have IBMers. You're not allowed to participate. You know the answers. Anyone not ready yet? Everybody ready? Most of us are ready. Okay, let's get started. There's 6 questions only, so I won't take until 3 o'clock. So I think I kind of revealed the answer to this, but how long has IBM been using and developing AI models? The faster you are with your answer, the better it is, right? Unless you're inaccurate. Yeah. So there's a leaderboard at the end. So 25 years is almost correct. So 2011 was when we won Jeopardy. And that's what we call like the inception of AI within IBM. We've been doing machine learning all along. So let's go to the next question. So what is the first step in a typical AI lifecycle? It starts with the business, right? It starts with defining and agree on the use cases, the use case elicitation. Oh, there we go. We have a leaderboard already. First time I use this application, so it's quite exciting for me as well. What is the percentage of enterprise data that has been built to use popular foundation models like GPT and and Llama? So the trick here is enterprise data, right? Those models have been built on internet available data. So no enterprise data has gone into this. Where do enterprises mostly run AI models? In the cloud, on premises, both. Enterprises don't use AI models yet. Oh, wow. A lot of people think it's on premises. Actually, a lot of the experimentation happens in the cloud. A lot of the operationalization in our customer base still happens on premises. In which phase of the AI lifecycle is the evaluation of AI models typically conducted? So both answers were correct. It's actually a good balance, development phase and the deployment phase. So it's a continuous process. And I think this is the final question. How many apples go in a 24-centimeter apple pie? It's 6. I think I gave the answer. Me and my 2 sisters each peeled 2 apples. So let's see what the leaderboard looks like. Tom, who's Tom? No Tom? Oh, there we are. And ready? Wow. So we have 2 winners, and come to me in the lunch break, and I'll hand you over the apple pie. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much. I'm curious if there were actually people here opening up GPT-4 Omnia, and that actually had GPT listening to the questions and already got the answers via the bot, or people actually were honest and thinking about the answers themselves.
I can tell you, GPT doesn't understand my dialect.
Okay, interesting. I think it was a very insightful talk, especially because what you mentioned, I mean, everybody's living in this hype, but it seems that a lot of people are also very high, right? I mean, it's not nice to think about governance and provenance and categorizing data, etc. So I think it's very insightful from your side to learn all these very important elements that take into consideration when working with AI. So thank you so much. I have one question from the audience.
Okay.
What are the estimated timelines and budgets for adopting an end-to-end AI lifecycle you mentioned in the presentation?
Okay. So we see customers doing this in a matter of weeks, and the practice that we take, we have a team called client engineering, and they help customers throughout this process. We have done this many times, like hundreds of times, And that allows customers for the initial use case or for the initial couple of use cases to get started very quickly, like a couple of weeks. So we talk in a matter of, we talk about spending a couple of weeks. In terms of budget, it really depends on what kind of use case, but think about it as weeks. And we have very many successful examples of customers all over different industries like manufacturing, banking, insurance, telco, who have successfully implemented AI use case using this cycle.
Did you also use AI to come up with the recipe for this apple pie, or?
No, I didn't. I have experience. Yeah, I'm a subject matter expert. not only producing, but also eating.
Frank Ketelaars from IBM.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.